This scene from Tsuki ga Kirei is heart-wrenching. Its build-up and execution throughout the previous 11 episodes are near perfect and is one of my favorite scenes in modern anime. I'd break this scene down, but I already have an entire video dedicated to it, so I'll link that in the description down below. Very few shows have had success with building up this much suspense. But whenever one does, I find myself breaking these scenes down and analyzing just how it's accomplished, leading me to this video. Instead of breaking down a specific scene, I want to use this opportunity to really analyze how shows can abuse suspense to tell a narrative and to get one invested in their characters. But before we begin, we really need to differentiate suspense from tension. Suspense and tension are commonly confused, and rightfully so. The two feelings are relatively similar. The difference between the two lie with the emotions involved. Suspense is usually built up towards a feeling of fascination and excitement, whereas tension is usually with anxiety and fear. Tension is most often associated with jump scares, whereas suspense is related towards action and, in this case, romance. Granted, tension isn't exclusive to horror anime. It can be found in anime such as Redline. Actually, most of my video on Redline discusses how the movie uses both tension and suspense. Jesus, I've made way too many videos. But recently I finished watching Land of the Lustrous and was astounded by this amazing ending that really got me thinking about this topic. By the way, if you haven't watched this gem of a show, please fix that. Sorry, the pun was too easy. So how does one go about creating suspense? Shit, that's a pretty broad question because suspense can be created through countless means. The suspense that was created during the scene that I showed you at the beginning of the video uses a combination of elements: pressure from the characters, prior knowledge of the character's feelings, and unpredictability, because we honestly don't know his answer. This is all built upon by the gorgeous use of silence in the show as well. But when all these attributes are combined and used properly together, we get this truly heart-wrenching scene. Now, granted, there are a few elements that transcend all scenes that build suspense, so let's talk about those. First, we need to create elevation to the scene at hand. There needs to be stakes. It's impossible to create suspense when there's nothing that can be lost. Look no further than One Punch Man. If you were to call One Punch Man a suspenseful show, you'd be laughed at. The whole point is that there is no suspense. Saitama won't lose a fight. It's just not possible. The only time there's any feeling of suspense in the show is when there is something more at stake. The fight with the fish monster is a great example of this. The scene has suspense before Saitama arrives and we learn that Genos can't handle him. But the second Saitama arrives, the suspense is dispersed. This is because we know the people's lives are no longer in danger. There's no stakes left. The second essential attribute that suspense must have is a confrontation. Without a confrontation, suspense often turns into confusion. And not like the good love triangle confusion, like the audience is confused about what's actually going on kind of confusion. For example, all of Divine Gate. Fun fact, I make everyone who is interested in filmmaking and anime watch Divine Gate just so they can understand how much can go wrong in a single show. I consider it like the room of anime. Leading me to the final essential attribute of building suspense: a conclusion. This one would seem pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like every light novel artist out there doesn't seem to understand this concept. You can technically build suspense by having stakes that lead to a confrontation, then just don't have a conclusion. But as you can guess, this leaves your audience cheated. This is a wrong way of building suspense that's often only done to prolong a series beyond the point where it's necessary. Basically, this is how you piss off your fandoms 101. So let's put this all together with a show that does an excellent job at building suspense and that everyone has already seen, so I don't have to worry about spoilers. My Hero Academia. And more specifically, the fight between Midoriya and Todoroki. So the show starts off by giving this fight stakes. If Midoriya loses, he's out of the tournament and is no longer able to showcase his powers. Secondly, as we see the fight begin, we get backstory on Todoroki and why he refuses to use his flames. Keep in mind there's hundreds of ways to build suspense and adding drama/backstory is one of them, although not essential. Leading us to the confrontation. This is where Midoriya gives a heartfelt speech about how it's Todoroki's powers and how he should use them to achieve his dreams, leading to both characters going full force at each other. Finally concluding with Midoriya losing the physical fight, but winning the argument. Now granted, this is a very bare bones breakdown of the scene. Once again, I have a video on this, but it's widely referred to as the best scene in the anime so far. It's a huge emotional beat to the narrative that not only affects the present circumstances, but has consequences that ring through multiple arcs later in the show. And that is incredible. Suspense may just be a writer's greatest tool. It can be used in so many ways and has so few rules surrounding it. Despite this, it can completely change how people view your narrative and create scenes that are exciting, funny, or even heart-wrenching. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is actually my first week back to my normal life. Last couple weeks I've been Anime LA, directly followed by my trip back to New Orleans for Mardi Gras, directly followed by the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, which has been awesome, but incredibly time-consuming, so I'm really just glad to be back home. A special thank you to all of my patrons. You guys have been extremely supportive the past few weeks, and I really wanted to thank you guys for that. Speaking of which, if you want to see how I edit, chat with me, or just support the channel, I run a $1 a month Patreon to make that as easy as possible. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys say, man, go watch that goddamn anime.